This holiday season, give the gift that stands for something greater with Milwaukee's own Chase My Creations. At Chase My Creations, the vision is to lead the way in spreading the message of justice, love, and compassion as we journey towards a more equitable future. This year, make your gifts count. Choose from our unique collection of socially conscious clothing that speaks to the heart of justice and compassion. Visit ChaseMyCreations.com and find the perfect gift that not only looks good, but also does good. Chase My Creations, fashion for a just future. Happy holidays from our family to yours. Welcome to Pulse Check, Wisconsin. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Dr. Ford with Pulse Check, Wisconsin. We got a good episode here for you today. We have Mariah Johnson, also known as MariahDaWeatherBookie, who will be discussing with us some of the initiatives that she's got going on here in Milwaukee. You may have seen her on billboards throughout the city of Milwaukee. You may have seen her on banners on the side of buses. She is working with the city of Milwaukee and the speeding campaign and safe driving campaigns as well. So that being said, feel free to sit back and enjoy this interview. This episode, we are very fortunate to have one of our local celebrities here in the city of Milwaukee. You may have seen her on billboards. I was just driving to the hospital over the north side recently. Saw you up on the billboard, saw you on the bus. I was like, man, I got to get her on and talk to her, man. This is what needs to happen. So again, we're very fortunate to have with us Miss Mariah Johnson. Mariah, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's kind of funny when people call me like a local celebrity. It's kind of weird. People definitely recognize me. I'm like checking out at a grocery store and they're like, "Are you on billboards?" And I'll just be like, "Yeah, it's me."
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I saw you. I think the first time I came across you was on Instagram. I saw some of your videos from kind of like the local reporting from the community. And I like, the way that you come at it, right? And so like, we'll get into some of the advocacy that you do more so for the safe driving campaign and some of the work that you're doing with the city as well and using your platform. But, some of the reports call to some of the audacity of some of the stuff that's going on in the community, right? And the way that you present it is not only in a way that, kind of gives us a little bit of a chuckle in a lighthearted way, but also you get to the heart of some of the issues and in some of the hits that your videos are getting and in some of the campaigns that you're doing here, it shows.
Thank you. And honestly, like I've been TikToking for about 4 years now. I started in during COVID. Obviously, I feel like when COVID happened, TikTok was big. So I was out there, just making the stupid videos. I had one video go viral in during COVID time. Then I took some time off and then I just started picking it up and I was just doing it for fun. It was just I didn't really find my niche yet, if that's people always talk about that and you don't really know your handle or what you're supposed to do. And then just one day I had dropped a reporting live video and I started reporting live on the weather and reporting live on events, and I just kind of have taken off since then. But I appreciate that because that's really the main thing when I'm doing TikToks and all of that kind of stuff. I really try my hardest to make it funny because it's at the end of the day, that's really who I am as a person. If anybody out here is watching this and they know me personally, they know all I do is joke, all I do is play around. But like you said, there is some really major issues going on in the city, and I do try and bring light to that. And I feel when I do my community work, when I'm trying to be this advocate for Milwaukee, I always want to meet people where they're at. And it's sometimes they don't want to hear from the politicians. They don't want to hear from the police. They don't want to hear from like people like that because it just seems so structured. But it's like coming from me, I'm like, bro, what are we doing? Why
Right.
are we doing this? Like,
Why does bird just get run over? Cause like what
yeah, like,
the bird, bro? I'll link that to it because I was dying at the hospital. Bro. I was like, what is happening right now? Y'all even got the bird out here.
and that's the thing. Like, I try so hard to just like, Milwaukee is an amazing place. You know what I'm saying? There is beautiful parts about Milwaukee. There's beautiful people in Milwaukee. There's amazing organizations in Milwaukee. We do have our problems though, and I feel like that's just what a city like ours is. But if we come together as a community, we can grow this community into a better space, in a safer space, not only for ourselves, but for the next generations, our kids, and all of that.
Right. And it's got to come from within, like you said, right? It's got to come from the people. It's got to come from the communities too, and community advocates like yourself. And it kind of getting into that. Tell me where you're from. You're from Milwaukee, born and raised. There you go.
Born and raised, 414 for
That's
life.
what's up.
If I had to rep a street, I would have to rep Hampstead for sure. I think it's really fun. They're not funny, but I think it's ironic that my brother died on Hampton Avenue. So that's definitely that full circle. But yeah, born and raised in Milwaukee. I am an MPS graduate. I went
Shout
to
out
Milwaukee.
MPS.
Period. Went to Milwaukee School of Languages. So habla español. But yeah, I've lived here my whole life. And this is really all I know. I mean, I have definitely traveled, but every time I travel, I promise you, I just want to see these green street signs again, and I need to hit a pothole, and I just feel like, okay, I'm back home. I'm
There we go.
good. Yeah. But yeah, so my whole life I was like a really big personality person. Like that's who I've always been as a kid. In high school, I was like the type of kid that was on student senate and like playing sports and being at school before school, after school. Like I was I always wanted to plan something. Like I always wanted to be involved. Then after high school, I had kids. I had my first baby at 20 years old. She actually just turned 10 last week, and just kind of like started life. I got a career. I got a diploma in medical field, and I was working at the VA hospital, and thought that was my calling. Then my brother died, and I was working at a hearing aid clinic in Waukesha. And I remember like week or two before then, I'm like, man, I'm a manager over a clinic. Like I finally made it in my medical career. Like I'm really making it. I'm moving up the but I also had that feeling where I'm like, is this what I'm really supposed to do? Like, is this really my calling? And then he died on August 7th of 2021. And that shook my whole entire world. And then, I'm a big Broadway fan. So there's this one song, and he says in there, he goes, I'm on my knees asking God what's my purpose. And I've never felt a lyric so hard in my life, because I'm just like, what am I doing? Like you've always been this big personality. You have this platform. Because at this point, I had about like 19,000 followers on TikTok. So I'm like, you got a little bit of a platform. People think you're kind of funny. Like, and I'm just like, I just always knew that like me sitting behind a desk typing all day was like not for me.
I get it. Yeah.
It's not. I'm not that type. I went to camp as a kid. I was like doing all this stuff. So I'm like, I know that that's not my calling. And he died, and my life was shooken upside down. Honestly, like it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do to go through in my entire life. And I come from a very small family. It's me, my mom, my sister, and my brother. My mom raised us as a single mother. My brother, I was born in 94. He was born in 99. And then my sister was born in 2000. So they're a year and 2 weeks apart. So they were raised like twins pretty much. And I'm the older sister. So by the time I'm 13, I'm taking care of these kids. Like I'm the older sister. My mom's you know what I'm saying? My mom's a single mom. And I know I'm hoping that there's gonna be so many people that listen to this, because I know there's so many, there's so many people that were the older sibling that had to raise their siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother, he got into trouble as a teenager. Like, that's one thing I will never deny. My brother was not perfect. Like, my brother was a Kia boy before Kia boys were Kia boys.
Right.
And he, that's how we were raised. But full circle, he gets out of jail May of 2021. And then August of 2021, he was taken from us. Nobody talks. I feel like, people talk about like the loss of like parents and the loss of like family members and grandparents and all of that. But I feel like you don't talk about the loss of siblings because it doesn't normally happen at such a young age.
Yeah, exactly.
My brother was 22 when he died. 22, like he had barely experienced anything, like let alone fulfilled his life at all, especially because 3 out of his adult years he spent behind bars. But yeah, that day, it was a Saturday afternoon. I was actually making tacos at my house. My little cousin was over. At this moment, my sister was living, her and her boyfriend were living with me. And my mom lived across the street from me. So, like, I could stand on my front porch and see my mom, like, have conversations from across the street. And my brother was living with my mom at the time. And I had just seen him. He was like, I'm about to run to the gas station, sis. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
He left. And at 4:41 p.m. that day, he was hit. There's 2 cars racing down Hampton Avenue at 120 miles an hour.
Mm.
And he was hit and killed on impact at they clocked it at like 109, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
And the guy who hit him, he was like in critical condition pretty much at that point. Both his legs were broken, so he was like unable to move or anything. And then the other car, he was banged up, but his girlfriend, who was in the passenger seat, she was banged up more.
Right.
But we were not notified till almost 6:00 that night. So my mom had received a knock on the door, and it was somebody, like one of our neighbors, like frantically like, there's been an accident. I believe your son was involved, and I don't think he made it. And my mom's like, whoa, back it up. So she called. Yeah, like, what do you mean? Like, it was just here an hour and a half ago. Like, so she calls me, and I sprint upstairs. I bust in my sister's room, and I'm like, something's wrong. Mom just called me. Like, there's something happened. She's like, I'll drive. Let's go. So me, my mom, and her hop in the car, and they told us that it happened on 60th and Capitol. So we drive over to 60th and Capitol. We get there, and there's nothing. And we're like, whew. But in my mind and in my body, in my soul, in something in me, I'm like, no, like, drive a little bit further. Drive 60th, and let's just take 60th home and make sure that it's like it. I could just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And we pull up, and we get to like, I don't know if you're familiar. Are you familiar with Milwaukee?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going towards Hampton. We're driving towards Hampton on 60th. And like that little bridge area right there, like right before you hit the gas station. We get there, and it's packed. Caution tape, the whole entire intersection is cautioned off. Like, my sister didn't even stop the car. I open the door, I jump out, I run to the middle, and I saw the car, and I knew. Like, I knew. I'm like, 1, I know it's his car. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. 2, I know he's gone. I could just feel it. Like, I felt dead inside. Like, I felt like a light had been flicked off inside of my body, because that's my blood. That's my, and it's like, I don't know if you've seen the billboards. Like, me and my brother are like twins.
Right.
Like, he's the boy version of me for sure. And it was just like that instant. And my sister and my mom make it to me, and the car was just destroyed. It was just in pieces. He was gone. His body had already been taken from the scene, which that's something, honestly, I'm very thankful for.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would have, like, I wouldn't say recover, because I feel like you never recover. And that's
Right.
one thing I definitely, I feel like we all need to speak about that. You never recover. But I don't think I would have been able to collect myself, because what also people don't understand, in that very moment, there's over 100 people standing around this caution tape. There's 30, 40 police officers. People are recording. I got so sick to my stomach, I needed water. I go into the gas station. People are approaching me like, I tried to help him. You want to see the video? Sorry.
You can go for it. No,
Like,
we good, man.
no, get out of my
We good.
face. Are you kidding me? Like,
Exactly.
are you fucking kidding me? You want to see a video of my brother dead? Are you kidding me? It was just one of those moments where, like, you don't feel like it's real, like your life. And I'm just like, I'm standing there. My husband's at home with my kids. So I call him and I'm just like, Gerald's gone. And he's like, what do you mean? Mind you, me and my husband have been together since 2013. We got together in 2013. So my brother was 11. Yeah, like 11, 12.
Like, yeah.
He's known, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's known my siblings for practically half of their lives.
It's like his little brother.
So it was like his little brother. And it was just, and he was like, I'm on my way. Like, Aliana's here. That's my little cousin. I'm going to leave the girls with Aliana. So he comes, he meets me, him and my sister's boyfriend comes. But I'm just like, I needed, you know how you sometimes need somebody else. And I needed my best friend. And I called Angel. And this is, I think, one of the hardest parts for me and her to even wrap up, is that I call her and I'm just like, Gerald's gone. And she's like, what do you mean? And I don't know why that's the first thing that I can say, but like, that's all that could really like leave my mouth. And I'm like, Gerald's gone. And she's like, I'm putting my shoes on. I'm on my way. Where are you? I'm like, I'm on 60th and Hampton. And she goes, wait, on 60th and Hampton? And I said, yeah. She looked up at her husband, and her husband was watching Gerald's video on Facebook Live, watching my brother laid out in front of the church on the grass, watching his best friend who died in the accident as well, hanging out of the back of the car with no clothes on. And it's people talking about, check on your people, check on your people, showing my brother's license plate number. And I'll never forget, like, she obviously didn't, in that moment, she didn't tell me that she told me that later in life, like later down the road.
After you had time to process it. Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, she came to me, me and my best friend, we are not, I love her to death. I have a tattooed for her. That's my right hand. That's my go-to. But we are not lovey. We do not hug. But I remember that is the one hug that I will never forget after Gerald died. She got there and just, I melted. I melted in her arms. Like, and people don't talk about it. People don't talk about that aftermath of how to actually process. I mean, I had to go home and tell my kids my brother was dead. That's not even funny, but you know what? Like, how do you even start that? And then just the week after, I remember there was really bad storms that week. That's like Milwaukee had damn near like flooded. There was trees knocked down. Like, it was like this big, big, big. People were out without power, everything. I had no idea. This was going on. Yeah. I wasn't even physically on Earth at that point. I was in a whole nother area. So then, I mean, I had to pick myself together. I had to plan the funeral. I had to help my mom with the arrangements to get him cremated. I had to make sure everything was together because I had to be the one to pull it together through all of the process of me having to like plan all of this. I stumbled upon a event going on in Milwaukee surrounding reckless driving. And it was through an organization called Safe and Sound. And, at this point, I'm still healing. I'm still just trying to find out like what my purpose is. And I'm like, why did I stumble across something like this? Like, I feel like because I stumbled across something like this, I should go. I'm affected by this. I should come. And one thing led to another. And next thing I know, come November, I was a community organizer for Safe and Sound, and I started community work. And, I slowly but surely, I worked in District 5. So the way Safe and Sound works, it's like based off of the police district. So I was doing a little bit of work in District 5 with community, as a community organizer. And that was like primarily with like working with adults and organizations and planning events. And I just like something just wasn't clicking for me. It just wasn't really working for me. And every idea that I had that I was bringing to my team, it had to do with reckless driving and it had to do with youth. So about 3 months in, I switch over and I start working in District 7 as a youth organizer. And the reason I bring up this is because that transition is why I am sitting on this podcast right now. Not me going to Safe and Sound, not me deciding to go join the community work. Me moving into District 7 as a youth organizer is the reason why I sit here today and I am where I am. I started doing youth police dialogues, talking about reckless driving. There was a whole project that Safe and Sound had put together called the Project 943. And 943 is the statute of limitation of stealing a car and operating a vehicle that is not yours. So we would go in, we would do this whole talk. I'd have my officers with me. And there was a way that I took this, and we're talking about stealing cars, which was huge at that moment. That's because Kia Boys were just ramping up at that, just getting rolling. But then I also took my story and explained how reckless driving affects families. Because what they didn't understand was they still clashed. Even though the guy that killed my brother was 43 years old, he was reckless driving. And the Kia Boys are reckless driving. Y'all think that it's fun to drive 60, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour down streets, and it's not. So I was able to just start it. And it got to a point where I'm going into schools weekly. I'm going into different organizations doing this. I was working at Wellpoint with their state mandated school with girls that were Kia girls. I'm coming in, having that open dialogue, telling them my story. And I'll never forget this. At this point, I had built a good relationship with these girls. I had come in a good amount of time. But one day I got really vulnerable and I told the story fully. You kind of have to build it up. I can't just jump in and throw it in your face.
This is it. Scared straight.
Exactly. Like, not how do you feel now? No, but I was like, I looked at my officers, and I'm going to call them my officers because I'm going to say this right now. Shout out to Officer Alicia Walker and shout out to Mr. Dominic Thompson. Those are my people. I love them down with everything in me. They have not only been support, but they have been mentors. They have absolutely given me platforms in a way that I have never, and I love them down. And that is one thing I would have to say. We have really good officers in our city. So do not think that all officers are bad. Anyways, so I told the whole story. I got really vulnerable. I cried in front of them. And, I'm a crybaby. I've been a crybaby my whole life. I was picked on in middle school and high school for being crybaby. But my best friend once told me, Angel, that I needed to get to a point in my life to realize that my emotions actually my superpower. And she said that a lot of people can't tap into emotions the way that you can. and you tap into emotions and you show vulnerability to people, so that feels that you allow people to feel vulnerable with you.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I remembered that. And I'm like, just go for it. Tell these kids. And at the end of the day, what the worst is they can do is laugh and you move on. But I had one girl raise her hand and she said, Mariah, she said, I want to tell you, one, thank you so much for telling your story. But two, I really want to tell you how proud I am of you for telling your story because I know that's really hard. And she goes, but three, I want you to know that it really made me sit back and think about my choices because I would never want my older brother to have to bury me. And, people always have like that moment where you're like, that was my moment. I had to take off for the rest of the day after that because the amount of emotion that came through my body was like, I'm not only keeping my brother's name alive, not only am I using my platform to really like make a difference, but I'm also connecting with our future of our city. And that's what we need. Everybody talks about all of the adults and we're the new adults and we need to do this and we need to do that. Like, no, we need to pour into these kids because guess what? In 10 years, they're going to be adults now. And if we don't pour into them, what are we doing? How are they going to be the next adults? And I feel like, I don't know how old you are, but my generation, I'm 30 years old. So my generation has seen it all, in my opinion. We remember the dial phones. We remember the dial-up internet. We remember all of that, like all leading up. And I feel like we're very, very, very well-rounded generation. And we have the power and the tools and the ability to pour into the younger generation because of who we are. And that's why I do what I do. I show up authentic. I never try and not be who I am. And guess what? I might not be for everybody. Not everybody might think I'm cool. Not everybody might think I'm funny. And that's okay. But one thing when I meet people in person and they're like, oh, I know you from social media, ha, ha, ha. Like, and I feel awkward. I do. So if you see this, just know I do feel awkward when it happens. I do. So if I act weird, it's just because I'm like, okay. But one thing I always say is like, who you see online, I promise is who I am right now, like standing in front of you. And like, I actually went somewhere. I went to a little get together last night and one of my friends' family members is like a fan, like huge fan. Like she was like, I guess when me and my friend were out one day and she had taken a picture and her cousin like slid up and was like, no, you don't know MariahDaWeatherBookie. And like, and my friend is like, Mariah? Like, yeah, like that's my girl. And she's just like, oh my God, like, no, you don't. Like, oh my God, she's real. Like, I'm such a real person. Like, but it's like one of those moments where everything I do, it feels full circle. I've been going through a lot of emotions the last couple days, and I feel like this podcast is very healing for me right now. We just had this huge event on Saturday that I was able to sit in on the coalition and help plan. I was able to help use my job's building to provide space for this event. But it was for the World Day of Remembrance for Victims. I struggled because we did a press conference on Friday about it. Then we had the entire event on Saturday. And then I was like, dang, now Monday, I got to go do this again. And I'm like, it's pouring out of me. And I hope that this is what you wanted, because I feel like I'm just talking.
No, absolutely.
I'm a certified yapper, so I love it.
So the reason why I wanted you on was just, to talk to some of the things that you talked about, right? So like your superpower of having that emotional intelligence to be able to convey that message to the younger generation, and it shows, right? It shows in the visibility of your work. It shows in the visibility of the effect that you've already had throughout the city, that the city even tapped in and wanted to say, hey, how can we use you? How can we use your platform to work with initiatives like you've been doing, to work with the Slow Your Roll initiative, Safe Driving, the MKE Coalition as well. So I wholeheartedly appreciate you sharing your story, as well as, appreciate you sharing that with our listeners too, so we can continue to get that message out, because especially after this last election season, right, you hear all this stuff about Milwaukee, right? Everybody's stepping on Milwaukee. Everybody's kicking Milwaukee, saying that, those kids are lost, right? The streets are lost and all that. Well, that's the opposite of what we need, right? That's just the opposite of what we need to do, is just to wash our hands with, some of the situations that we get going on in the city, and some of the families that are there that are trying to make a difference, like you and like your family as well.
I appreciate it. I mean, and when you reached out to me, I'm just like, let's do it. Let's do it. And then I'm not going to lie to you, I looked you up and I was like, let's do it. We here for show. Like, let's do it. But it's just been amazing, and I appreciate the platform. I appreciate the support that people give me. And that's the one thing that sometimes I don't know how to like express but then in times like this, I get to express, where I have some of my like main followers on TikTok that like, I know their names. I know they're going to comment. They're going to like my stuff. They are going to share my stuff. Like I have that. And I'm so grateful for the people that have been riding with me this whole time. Because
they won. Yep.
Because when I win, I promise you they're going to win too. And I just actually got off the phone with my girlfriend, and she was like, I hope you know the type of person you are, because you're just going to continue to get blessings on blessings on blessings.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, hearing stuff like that freaks me out, because it's like, I don't want to come off cocky, but I'm really that bitch. Like, I'm really that, like, I'm doing it. I am. And I'm just so thankful to, like, have the platform that I do. And I just hope that, like, people hear my story. I hope people see what I do. And I hope that it just makes them think, my brother would be blown away about what I'm doing right now. Like, he would be like, sis, that's crazy. Like, one, he would have talked about me for working with the cops.
That's how it is. That's how it is. You
be like,
know how we do. Yeah,
you are for sure. Sis. You are
working with 12.
Yeah, for sure. But he would absolutely think this is the coolest thing ever. And it would have been so cool to have him like in videos with me. Like, he would have just loved the platform that I had and just ate it up. And it's like, I feel like he does love it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knows, like, and I'm every move that I make, like, I just am reminded. And and I'm a rod wave person. I don't know if you're a rod wave person.
Oh yeah.
But like, this Last Lap album for me has been a little bit of closure when it comes to like how I'm feeling about my brother, and how, like, because people don't talk about survivor's grief.
Exactly.
And yes, like, there's different levels of survivor's grief. Like, there's the level of like, you were in that tragedy with them and you survived, but then there's also that like, why him and not me?
Right, exactly.
And because I'm like, I got to live my life. I had children. I got married. I got to do that kind of stuff. My brother didn't get to do any of that. And so it's like, we don't talk about that. But in this Last Lap album, the song Last Lap, he talks about how, like, you just have to keep going because that's what they would want you to do. And like, it's like, I've had that feeling recently where I'm like, it's okay to sit in your feelings.
Yep.
It is. And you need to, like, you need to have a breakdown here and there. Like, you need to feel those feelings.
You're processing. Absolutely.
But like, keep going.
Yeah. And I feel like, especially in our communities too, right? Like, there is so much tragedy that everyone has been through, just like day-to-day stuff, right? Like, growing up, in our neighborhoods, going to school where we went to it, the level of cortisol, that level of stress that you're under is so big that your brain compartmentalizes it, right? And so you just get through it, right? But when you actually have a chance to sit back with it and allow yourself to feel those feelings, allow yourself to feel that grief, you'll be surprised at the things that you can do in order to make a positive out of, like the things that you're doing, like, the safe driving, Milwaukee Coalition's efforts, teaming up with the city, things of that nature. Those are the positives that come out of identifying those stressors and identifying that grief and saying, what can I do next? How can I help the next person?
And that's like one of the main things. So shout out to Jessica Weinberg as well. She is actually the director over the Speeding We Can Live Without campaign. She's the director over that with the city of Milwaukee. And I'm so blessed to have met her and her be able to give me the opportunity to be a part of the campaign. But her and I have been talking. And I think one of the biggest things that I right now want to tap into is I want to tap into this, like the community. And I want to use my platform and ask people, what do you guys need from the city? What do you guys need as a community? Because I know there's a lack of resources in this city. I was raised in this city. I was raised one of those kids. I was a 40-cent kid, 40-cent lunch kid. You know what I'm saying? I was the kid that had the check bounce when I wanted to play sports. So, and I'm not saying that every kid is like that in Milwaukee, but let's be honest, like a good probably 60% of Milwaukee is going through that. Right. And I was just having this discussion lately where I'm like, I was in 2008 during that recession. I was in the 8th grade. Yes, I was a child, but I was also a child in a single mother home who was treated like a second parent. So I knew what was going on.
Right.
Because in the 8th grade, I'm on Craigslist helping my mom find rental properties for us to move. So I knew what was going on. I seen the inflation. I was understanding that.
Yeah.
And that's where we are right now in 2024. We are literally going through the same cycle. And now that's why I'm like, us who were kids at that point, we are adults at this point. Y'all know what we need to do. We have to come together. We have to come together. Everybody's going through the same thing. Everybody's struggling. We need to stop trying to outdo each other and do this and do that. And we need to come together as a community. The lack of resources when it comes to good food in this city is insane. The food deserts that we have is insane. And people just kind of turn a blind eye. And it's like, no, we don't need to turn a blind eye because it's just going to be revolving doors of the same exact thing. Kids are growing up on hot Cheetos and ramen noodles still. And our generation, we know what that looks like.
We all feeling it now. We're
all feeling it. Half of us got IBS and half of us are eating Tums every night at the age of 30 because we burnt our insides out and at 6th through 8th grade, 9th grade and all that. And now these kids are doing it, but they're doing it even younger. And then it sucks because what's being provided is getting worse, like Takis and Prime and all of that kind of stuff. But that's all that is being provided to these kids because of the food deserts in Milwaukee.
All that's available.
I overheard my daughter that she was on the phone with a friend from school and they were talking about what they had for dinner. And my daughter said, oh, like my mama made chicken, broccoli, and rice. And she was like, do you eat vegetables every night? And like, my daughter's like, yeah, like when my mom cooks, my mom always cooks a vegetable. Like, my kids will eat zucchini. My kids eat mushrooms. My kids, we eat actual like vegetables because you start that young. So then it follows them into their adult.
Exactly.
And the girl was like, I don't remember the last time I ate a vegetable. And I'm like, and I'm not judging, you know what I'm saying? I'm not judging, but it's like at the same time, there's a reason. And it's like, that's just one lack of resource in Milwaukee. We're not talking about the mental health issue that we have.
The medical deserts, the Walgreens that are pulling out, right? Like all the,
Left and right pulling out. And it's insane to me. People are not able to get what they need anymore. And then the cost of health insurance is going up. So then people don't have health insurance. So they're not going to the doctor. And it's just, it's a constant issue. And then to wrap it all in whole, our city's full of violence, which causes what?
Exactly.
Mental health issues. So it's just like, and it's like, what do we do?
Yeah.
When we know all of this stuff? So we need people like you, like me, like everybody who has the platform to talk about it.
Exactly. What are some of the challenges that you face, like, in the initiatives that you're doing? Because, like you said, I see the hits that you're getting, the city sees the hits that you're getting. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing and how are you working to overcome them when it comes to providing that message?
Okay, I'm going to start. Personal challenges. It's very hard to have a full-time job
Mm-hmm.
and be a full-time influencer advocate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, like, being able to combine that, but I'm very blessed to work for an organization that really supports my initiative. So I feel like I have a pretty healthy balance. So I would say that's one challenge. My other challenge I would have to say is messaging. I feel like, I'm going to just throw it out there. There's people in the city that have kind of taken what I do, the reporting live, and started doing it themselves, which is cool. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? I didn't patent reporting live yet.
Right. Tell us.
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk.
But it's a different type of level. Because one thing when I do like my reporting live, and I've made this message on my TikTok before, is I'm not going to report live on tragedy. Like I might pick up a bumper and talk about that. I might talk about a dead bird in the middle of the street. I might talk about that kind of stuff. But I'm never going to pull up to a live accident where the firefighters are still sweeping stuff and people are getting in ambulances. Like, I just don't find that funny because I've been on the other side of that.
Unfortunately, you had to be there. Unfortunately, you had to go through that. Yeah.
And so, like, the messaging, I feel like it has it's crossed paths a couple times where, like, some of my followers are tagging me in their video and vice versa. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's hee ha ha. You're at an accident in the middle of the night and somebody
Mm-hmm.
is messed up. So the views are going to go up.
Right.
So, it's just like the messaging behind it, like making sure that I'm staying true to myself, staying true to how I feel about things. And the trolls, trolls
Mm-hmm.
are real.
Mm-hmm.
I got 52,000 followers on
Mm-hmm.
TikTok. And I mean, some of my videos get 100,000 views or
Mm-hmm.
higher. And, some of them are lower where I'm only hitting 30,000 or some of them are only like 5,000. But those heavy hitters, they do, there's trolls and they're gonna attract the people. They're gonna attract the negative Nancys. They're gonna attract the bots. And I've just come to a point where I don't really let it bother me.
No.
Like I've had a couple videos that have gotten to me a little bit, but I had to remind myself, like, girl, you know who you are.
Uh-huh.
Your real fans, your true followers know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let these little people determine you.
And that's a good point because when you get to that point where you're attracting that type of energy that you're actually doing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not going to talk about you if you don't have an effect. They're not going to say these things that are out of pocket about a city that a lot of them trolls have never been to. They don't live here. They don't have no interest in going here unless it's a convention or something like that going on down the road. But then they're going to talk about it, right? Yeah. And so that's how your reach is getting to where it needs to get. And we're getting to the heart of the issues. And that's how we go through it. That's how we pick it up and that's how we make change.
Yeah. Like one of the videos, I reported live down on Water Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this, full disclosure, I had a couple drinks, you know what I'm saying? But I'm 30 years old. I'm grown.
You're doing you.
It was a Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of work. I work very hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So sometimes I need to let loose. And I'm going to show that side of me too, because at the end of the day, that's a part of who I am too. So I reported live. It was the end of the night on Water Street. And if you're familiar, it can get hectic down there. But it gets hectic not because of the adults who can actually be down there, because there's been a lot of issues with teenagers being down there. So MPD has definitely had to take stuff into their own hands. And I feel like that's what officers are here for. They're not out here frisking people and, rubber bulleting people, but they're doing sirens. They're telling y'all to go home, get off the sidewalk type of thing. So I thought it was funny. I reported live. I said, we live, baby. And if you're from Milwaukee, that's very Milwaukee.
Exactly.
what up, brother folks? We live, baby. Like, my daddy, that's what it is. So, and that's all the video was. The video was no more than 15 seconds. They ate me alive. This trash. This is exactly why we hate Milwaukee. This is why I don't come to that ghetto. You, no wonder why you don't have a job. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't have a job. It's funny.
Right.
I love that for you.
Right.
I love that for you because I have about 17 jobs if I really want to break it down. But it was one of those moments where I had already hit that point in my career where it didn't even bother me. It made me laugh. Like, I'm just like, y'all don't know who I am. My real followers know who I am. They know this is a joke. They know this is just for fun. And you move on. But then the true Milwaukeeans, like, this is so Milwaukee. I love this. I love this type of reporting. Like, it's just like bringing light to who Milwaukee is.
Exactly.
I tell people all the time, like, one of my favorite things about Milwaukee is the attitude. And when I elaborate on it, I just say that I feel like if you're truly from Milwaukee, like you were bred and born here, you have this just like attitude to you. Like, and you got to. Like, you gotta
get through it, man.
Yeah, like you gotta thug it out. Like, and I feel like you can pick out of a room somebody that tries to claim they're from Milwaukee that isn't. Because you growing up in Tulsa is not
They're gonna get it.
Milwaukee. You're not growing up in Milwaukee. Like, so I don't know. It's just it's an amazing place. It has its problems, but I feel like stuff like this is what we need. People need to sit down and have that conversation. People need to sit down and reflect on themselves. Like, that was one of the things I said in my speech this weekend was like, I hope when you see my videos, I hope when you hear me speak and tell my story, I hope that sparks a conversation with your family, with yourself, with anybody. Like, it's just like, it's an epidemic for sure. Like, and one thing that like my mom said in 2021, the Bucks in 6, won the championship. Everybody rallied. Everybody was together. It was such
one
an amazing,
Milwaukee. Yeah.
One Milwaukee. We love Milwaukee. Like, this is great. But it's like, but what about when we're adding families after family after family to the roster of the same type of deaths? And that's kind of when I said earlier, I've been struggling lately, is I think it's like, I was so used to doing this reckless driving alone that for a while, I was really one of the like bigger ones in the city doing a lot of this talk. Like,
you're the only name that I saw.
I was, and that's the thing. It's so weird. I'm Googleable now. Like, like, but it's like, I go to this press conference on Friday and I got 5-6 families behind me since my brother that are going through the same thing. And I'm just like, I talk to them and I'm like, I would love to tap in with all you guys. Like, I want to start my own podcast where I like talk about different stuff. Like, I feel like I'm a certified yapper and I feel like I'd be great at it. But I want to use my platform to like give these victims and their families the platform to talk about it, because we need to talk about it.
Absolutely. Well, definitely let me know. I'll definitely coach you through that process a bit.
Yes,
but you definitely
I would love it.
You need to get this message out, and the way that you tap in with people and the way that you connect with people at that level, especially having not only lived it, but being from Milwaukee, that's how we get it through, right? That's how we get to a place where we truly get to that net zero of incidents in the city. Because again, like you said, talking from a policy standpoint, that's only going to get you so far. And if people know who you are, and some people are playing these games out here politically, and we just trying to get it done. We're trying to do what's better for our communities. So with that being said, how can the public get involved with your efforts? How can someone help you in your efforts, not only through your Safe Driving Milwaukee Coalition endeavor, but in any other way that you're working and reaching out in the community?
Honestly, like, one, slow down. I guess that's the one. Slow the hell down. Like, that's one of the biggest ones. I think, like, it's about to get cold. Like, I'm PSA real quick. It's about to get cold, friends. Most of us have driven in Milwaukee most of our lives. Okay.
Act like it.
let's act like we know how to do this. And then let's also take into consideration the amount of roundabouts, speed bumps, and new things that have been added to our structures in the city.
Through these endeavors.
Through these endeavors, which is needed because our streets were insane. You could do whatever you wanted. Baselining was so easy. And it's sad that we had to go out and do all this extra stuff, but it was needed. It was needed because it was an issue.
Yeah.
But Milwaukee, remember, when it gets cold, it brings snow, and snow brings ice, and then it gets icy. So let's just slow down. Because could you imagine, I don't know if you know, but that speed bump on Center that was put in, that thing's going to be very icy, Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Slow down.
I will echo that as someone who will be taking care of you in the emergency department. Please slow down.
Slow down. And that's like the thing too. And I feel like I overtalked you, and I'm so sorry. I feel like we might need to run this back and do a part 2. Because
Always.
I feel like we don't talk about the first responders as well. But we do. But we talk about the first responders, such as like the police and the fire department and all of that. Because, yeah, they're first on scene. They see all that kind of stuff. But also, they don't talk about the doctors who are taking the mangled bodies and having to be pronounce these babies dead.
Exactly.
In the hospitals. And I mean, like, I worked in the ER at the VA hospital. I know that is nowhere near Frederick Hospital. I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. I know that. That's nowhere near St. Joe's. You know, like but some of the stuff I seen in just the VA hospital ER, I could only imagine what you go through. And you guys don't get your flowers enough. Because I know there's probably been times you've gone home and had to sit in your car in silence for 10 minutes before you walked in the house because you're fucked in the head. Having to tell families.
Yeah. And especially, you know, like you said, when you come from these communities, and it ain't many of us, let me tell you, that come from it that are sitting on that side of the coin, right? And so, you know, seeing it over and over and over again, and that's why I connected with you, because I know, you know, that you're doing the work in the community. And I know that, you know, us talking to folks in a certain way, say, hey, man, this is how it's going to end up in the emergency department. This is how it's going to end up in, you know, the OR, et cetera, et cetera. And we're tired, man. I'm tired of pronouncing babies dead. I'm tired of pronouncing members of a whole generation, 2 or 3 generations in one accident. Right. And so, like, we got to do better, and we got to continue to push forward, and we got to make sure that we're doing outreach like this in order to try to see if we can get to talking to that teenager that you said that you had a breakthrough with, right? Like, we have to continue to make those breakthroughs, and we have to do it in a way that's palatable for folks, and we got to do it in a way that folks, you know, they'll feel it. They can see themselves in that situation, and that situation that your family went through, right?
That's the biggest thing. But I would have to say, follow me on social media.
I was going to say, how can people follow you?
So I'm on TikTok, MariahDaWeatherBookie. If you type in reporting live from Milwaukee in your search engine, you'll see all my videos. But I am officially, so I have my regular Instagram, obviously, but I feel like since I've just been kind of up and coming, I'm actually going to be making like a MariahDaWeatherBookie Instagram and Facebook in the next couple. So that'll be rolling out in the next couple weeks. And also, this has been kind of low-key news just because I've been trying to figure out when and how I'm going to do it.
There we go. Exclusive. There we go.
Yeah. I am actually going to be dropping my first t-shirt.
Yes.
It's going to be like a reporting live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm super excited. I completely made the logo myself.
Yes.
I'm actually looking for a Milwaukee print shop or anybody that's Milwaukee. I really want to get the t-shirts locally printed. I want to put my people on. I feel like that's a big thing in Milwaukee. There's so much talent here. There's so many people doing this, that, and the other. So if you know anybody, or if you're listening to this and Yes.
I got some folks. I'm gonna get you. We good. We'll go.
Good. But yeah, like I would say that's really the only way that you can continue to support. I mean, if you see my videos, if you see me like talking about stuff, just share my stuff, start a conversation with a neighbor, start a conversation with a coworker, with a friend. If you hear this, like just, I don't know. I think we need to come together, and I'm willing to do as many podcasts, as many interviews, as many anything. I'm like, shit, if somebody wants to make a documentary, let's do
Let's
it.
get it.
Like,
Let's get it.
I just feel like this is my purpose. This is exactly what I'm supposed to do. And it's really only up from here. So I'm just blessed. Blessed, like you don't know that feeling until you sit on something like this.
Exactly. Well, Mariah, I want to thank you for coming out and joining us here today. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm going to post everything that we talked about here in this episode to the website. Definitely, we'll hook up about those T-shirts because I definitely want to make sure we get that message out there.
Yes.
Don't be a stranger. We'll love to have you back on again. We can talk more. We got to get more into this.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate y'all, and stay golden 414. I promise you.
Let's get it.
But yes.
All right, my friend.
Bye.
I want to thank you for taking the time and listening today. Again, slowing down, controlling the reckless driving that we have in the city of Milwaukee is going to be paramount for all of our communities to decrease the number of accidents that we see in the emergency departments. And on the whole, it's going to help us protect our families, protect the kids in the neighborhood. So everybody, just slow down, man. There's no reason to be driving that fast. Lives on the line, lives are at stake. And just by not driving that way is going to go a long way in terms of making sure that everyone has a happy holiday, making sure that everyone lives to do amazing things in this city, lives to see their families thrive and prosper, and will reduce the number of fatalities that we have and that we see day in and day out in the emergency department. With that being said, I want to thank Mariah for coming out and speaking with us. Hopefully we will get her on to discuss other things that she's got going on as well. Looking forward to seeing all the good things that she's going to be doing in the future. Feel free to join us during our next episode. And until then, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. And if you need me, come and see me.